Hi, everybody. And what an amazing weekend. We've thoroughly enjoyed it. So have our dogs. Their dogs have been on the couch with us watching all the presentations. And I just want to acknowledge everybody who is involved in this. Is it? It'd be safe to say that everybody that's a part of this weekend is trying to better their lives, and that's our tribe. JoLae and I are very attracted to people that are trying to better themselves, and that's been something that we've been doing for a long time. So, would you like to intro?
Yes, yes. So a little about me. My story kind of comes more from uh, experience that's been kind of gone through my family. So my mom was the daughter of a very abusive alcoholic, and her mom was a codependent. And a lot of those behaviors kind of trickled down into my family. She went to treatment when I was 2 because she started having visions of hurting me, and she got worried and concerned. So she went to treatment and started to kind of look at those experiences she had in her life. And then she continued therapy when she came back. But as I grew up with her in my life, she struggled with anger and rage. And so for a little kid, I kind of had to walk on eggshells a lot, or I felt like I had to, because I didn't know, if she was going to get angry because I did this, or if she was going to be happy and loving one day. And it always fluctuated. And I was lucky enough to I had a father who was very patient and kind, and I was able to develop more of a secure attachment to him. But that relationship with my mom, we've actually mended a lot of that over the years, but coming from a childhood perspective, it kind of set me up for some dysfunctional behaviors in relationships. When I went to college, I kind of started getting into therapy myself, was really into self-help books and therapy theory and all this kind of stuff. And then when I started working on cruise ships after college, I couldn't take those books with me. The Kindle wasn't really a thing at that time. And so you have very limited space to actually take things with you. So I kind of fell off the wagon and found myself in some pretty dysfunctional relationships, and decided that a lot of the behaviors in these relationships resembled my home life as a kid, and I was putting that together. So I went to therapy, decided to do a lot of work on myself. I made a commitment to myself to focus on that for a period of 6 months, and not to date, just focus on myself and my work and getting myself aligned. And during that time when I was lonely, I wrote down on a sheet of paper all the qualities I wanted in like my future relationship, and the things that were important to me and the values that were important to me in that. And then lo and behold, 6 months later, this guy walks into my life. And so there's no coincidences. But that's a little bit of my story. I'll let you go ahead and share your
Yeah.
experience.
So I grew up with my stepmom in a very similar situation. I would come home from school and not know, who I was walking into. And looking back, she had mental illness and drug addiction and all those things. And it definitely, I didn't realize how it affected me until I got into treatment. But in '99, I began using cocaine and Crown Royal as my coping mechanism. A big party at the beginning, but about a year into it, some family members said I had an issue with it. I didn't necessarily agree with it. I certainly did not accept or admit my powerlessness over drugs and alcohol at that time. But I began my treatment journey in 2000, and I went to 2 treatment centers in the first year. Still never really. I just felt like I was still able to control, and so it continued on and on. And I went to Sierra Tucson in 2005. I just celebrated 14 years. I did not stay sober out of Sierra Tucson. I still had a little bit of research to do, but October 1st, 2006, something clicked for me. I truly admitted my powerlessness over it. The funny thing about me is that I've always felt to be a very ambitious, resourceful person. So even with drugs and alcohol, I believed that I could triumph over it and only use some of the tools that were being offered to me, the ones I thought were important. And I've heard this story before in the rooms, in 12-step meetings and whatnot. But it took a lot. I had to be really brought to my knees to finally surrender to the point where I was like, okay, I don't know how to do this. Show me how to do this. And that was the gift of desperation needed for me to open my heart and put everything that I had into recovery. So like I said, it's just celebrated 14 years, and I'm super, super, super grateful. And I know that JoLae and I would not fit if I was not, in recovery and working, using that design for life that we learn about. It has been a tremendous gift. I'm just, every day I wake up grateful. Being an ambitious person, I've also learned that, I can't be ambitious at the expense of not being grateful for what I have. And so taking the time through some of the concepts and tools that we've heard this weekend, the mindfulness, it's been an important part of this. And I also had to learn that acceptance doesn't necessarily mean approval. And I could say that, but I really had to, practice that, and it took me a lot of years. I'm pretty stubborn, but I know one thing for sure. No, I'm not stubborn.
Yeah, you are.
So I know one thing for sure, that, like I said, there's no way that if I wasn't on this path of recovery, continually doing inventory, taking all those dysfunctions and converting them into a really functional way to live, this beautiful woman would not be my wife today.
It's true.
My sponsor just sent me a letter, little late, but he wanted to get me a special coin. But in the letter, it talked about there's just no way that we would be together if it wasn't for recovery. So,
Well, because all the values in recovery are the same values that I always wanted in a relationship, that I feel is the root and the foundation of a solid relationship. And I feel like recovery is what gets us through anything that we go through, and those principles and practices are just at the center of our relationship.
well, I find it interesting. So JoLae never had any experience in 12-step, but she just naturally, organically, some of the beliefs and concepts that we learn in recovery, she just had them already. And I don't.
Well,
all
I
the
did
reading,
a lot
the
of
self-
therapy. I really did.
We are big advocates for therapy. So I went talking about acceptance. It's easy to accept things when things are great, and one thing that this pandemic has been for us, and we'll go back to this later too, but it sort of forces us into acceptance. I mean, we don't have to. We could fight this thing and just be out of serenity, but one of the other gifts of recovery is that kind of getting a baseline of what peace and serenity feels like. And then very quickly, we know when we're not in that place, and then we can look at what the cause is of it, and we can do something about the root cause of why we're out of that center, if you will. And this pandemic thing has been really challenging for us, but it's given us the time to reflect and let go. Again, a lot of things going on that we may or may not approve of, or whatever it could be with our friends and family and the situation. But accepting that is the way it is moves us towards the next step of actually healing and being okay, navigating through that stuff that we're powerless over. I don't know why I have such difficulty. Like, part of my success in getting off of drugs and alcohol was admitting the powerlessness and turning it over, and that surrender. But why do I have trouble with it, with daily stuff? Like when she's not doing the dishes like I think she should do them, which is one of our areas of contention. Why can't I just let that go? So when I am, it's a red flag for me. It's an early warning detection system when I'm starting to control and show her how to do things. And and the beautiful thing about JoLae is that many things, but one thing we're very independent. We have a very interdependent relationship. She's very good at just not biting my bait and just holding up the mirror for me. And that has been, I don't always like the reflection I'm seeing in it, but it's been very, very helpful to get me back on my path, and been a big part of our success in our relationship too. But before we go on, I would like to do, is it okay if I do a song?
Yeah.
I'm going to do,
Let's scoot over a little.
I had to ask, see, she's got me trained. Is it okay if I do a song, honey?
Oh my gosh.
This is an old song. I actually wrote this song while I was still using, but it talks about, it identifies a part of me that resists the healthier path, that resists change. Change is uncomfortable. And I remember when I first got into recovery, there were two great fears that somebody pointed out to me. It's the fear of this isn't going to work for me. I'm different. I'm unique. It works for you guys, but it's not going to work for me, and I'm just going to be a drug addict. And the other fear is, oh shit, this is going to work, and I'm never going to use again. And that's also very scary too. One thing that I always maintain through even my lowest points in my using is I always had this seed of hope, and this song is called Hope. So. You actually know the words to this. Do you want to sing it?
It's not in my key.
There's a part of me that wants to terrorize everything, and I can't deny it, that there's something tempting me. I close my eyes, but I'll still see everything. I'll just pretend, does it matter? Well, what to do, do I keep it all inside? Who's to say what to say? Think I'll say it anyway. Where I go, when I go, how I get there, I don't know. Still there's one thing I know, I'll never lose hope. So was everyone going? Such a hurry. You should stop and smell the roses. Something wrong here. Should I be worried? I couldn't help but notice all the long faces in the wrong places. Am I making this up myself? I'll just pretend. Doesn't matter. Well, what to do? Do I keep it all inside? Who's to say what to say? Think I'll say anyway. Where I go, when I go, how I get there, I don't know. Still there's one thing I know, I'll never lose hope. I will never lose hope. Well, I will never lose. I will never lose hope. Which way do I go? Does anybody know? Somebody save me. Somebody save me. We all fall down. Eventually, it's inevitable. Shit's all around. And try to avoid it, but it's not always allowed. And if you're up to your neck in it, don't worry, 'cause it's only for a while. Just pretend, doesn't matter. Well, what to do, do I keep it all inside? Who's to say what to say? Think I'll say it anyway. Where I go, and I go, how I get there, I don't know. Still there's one thing I know. What to do, do I keep it all inside? Who's to say what to say? Think I'll say it anyway. Where I go, when I go, how I get there, I don't know. But there's one thing I know, I will never lose hope. Oh yeah,
I love that song.
Yeah, just today she goes, that's a pretty good song.
So you're a good songwriter, right?
The thing about writing that before I was in recovery is one of the solutions are just pretend like nothing happened. Well, that's obviously avoidance. And one of the things that you do naturally, but that I have had to learn and is an excellent tool, is that we have to face everything and recover. And everything that I avoid, I'm not going to transcend. And all of these things that are happening, that have happened to us and me and everybody really, is that there's an opportunity within every situation to convert it to an asset, to grow, learn and grow from that and transcend, which is to me the key of recovery. Aside from helping other people and giving it away. So Joe and I actually, we met through work, and this is interesting because there's an acceptance piece in this that's crucial. It was very, very hard for me. It was hard, but yet it was very, I was able to do it without much resistance. But so you were working at
I was working at the Disbono show, yeah. And this guy just walked up to me and introduced himself, and I'm a showgirl.
Yeah, she was in big
I was in big
feathers, and
feathers.
yeah,
You
it was a
can't
little
miss me.
intimidating.
But my job before the show is to introduce, or not introduce everybody, but greet everyone as they come into the theater. So I'm standing outside the theater. He's there to meet the entertainment director, and he just walks up to me and says, "Hi, I'm Michael Shapiro." And I was like, "Hi." And I think he like didn't say anything for a while. There's like an awkward silence, and I'm trying to do work, and then he's trying to talk to me, and
It was awkward.
He was very
It was-
cute, but it was very dorky, which I kind of found endearing. Because you circle, he went in and then he came back out, and then he went in.
I went to
and
the
came back
bathroom
out.
4 times in like 10 minutes just so I could walk by her again. Which,
But,
yeah.
no, go ahead.
So for me, I've had the ability, especially in recovery, to be my authentic self, and I'm usually pretty comfortable talking to people, and I had a lot of trouble with her. Like I wasn't smooth. I was very stuttery, very dorky, as she puts it, which is interesting because if I had been too smooth, it would have repelled you probably,
Yeah.
right? And you said that. So I did manage to connect with her, and then we went and had lunch, and at the lunch, you told me what? Tell
I
me.
told him I had a 5-year rule and he was too old for me. And as I said, this was literally on the tail end of me like committing, like I'm not dating anybody, I'm doing this work. And in that process, I realized that if I was going to have a real relationship with anyone, I needed to take it slow and I needed to create space for me. So I think that was probably subconsciously my way of creating some space to check you out and see if you really were
set a
who you
boundary.
presented yourself.
Set a boundary,
to be.
which is a lot. We've been talking a lot about boundaries over the weekend and how important that is. And typically for me, pre-recovery, I was the guy that manipulated, that pushed. I was going to achieve the goal, whether it was with a date with a beautiful woman, or it was money, or cars, or whatever I had to do to try to make that outside stuff look good on the outside. So temporarily making myself feel better on the inside, but never really getting that authenticity and that true connection. With JoLae, when she set that boundary, it was weird. It was like it wasn't me, but I'm like, okay, I totally get it. And I truly felt like, okay, I just want to be in JoLae's life in any capacity, as a friend, as work. She's a professional dancer. I brought a new show to Las Vegas at that time, and I needed dancers. So the way I got to spend time with JoLae and honor her boundary was for work. So you did all the,
I helped do the choreography and I hired the dancers for the show and the costumes and all that stuff. And I've learned that you were a pretty good guy, and so it wasn't just an act. So yeah, we started dating and
working
got
together.
engaged and working together. And
Working together, though, it gave an opportunity for without the romance component or the sexual component. It was, we were able to see qualities, not blinded by infatuation or that new love thing. Even though I knew I was going to marry her, she didn't know, and nor would she agreed if I would have presented her with it. But like, it gave us time to kind of get to know each other organically, for lack of a
and
better
we
word.
worked well together. Like you're very committed to what you're doing, and he was organized and he was kind and respectful to everyone else, which is something I love kindness. I'm a sucker for some kindness, and so
Because you're a very kind person.
well, it's I guess, but I saw that quality in you, and I saw how you treated people, and that really, how you treat waiters and stuff like that, I always paid attention to, because I felt that if you can treat a waiter disrespectfully, that's going to be me someday. And so I always looked at that.
I'm smiling because after we started dating, we went to an event or something, and there was a valet parker that at a hotel that was inappropriate, and I felt some entitlement and some rights. My rights came in to try to control the situation. So I sort of pushed back on this gentleman or this guy, and she witnessed it, and she was embarrassed by the way I was treating this guy. And we got in the car, and I felt like she was taking his side. And it was hurtful for me because it's rejection for me is how I took it. And she was just, again, me having a healthy boundary, she actually said to me, how you treat somebody else is how you could treat me someday. And it really hit me because I was taught about integrity, and the integrity is like a piece of steel. No matter where you touch it, it's the same. So how I treat, Melvin Harvey, you can't see that one of our dogs is down here at my feet. How I treat him when nobody's around, how I treat service people around, how I treat my parents, it's all connected. And when I find myself acting out in one area, I notice I need to check my integrity a little bit. But the point of that for me really is that I found a partner that makes me want to be a better human being. And that's the goal, and that's continually the goal. And then going back to saying, I acknowledge everybody that's part of this part of our weekend here. Everyone's trying to better themselves, which I think is such a beautiful quality. Always remain teachable. So then we moved into dating, and then we waited a couple of years, and then got married.
Yeah.
So we've been together 5 years. We've been married. We just celebrated 2 years.
2 years married, 5 years together.
So what's it like being married to an addict alcoholic?
Well,
Be challenging?
it's amazing. No, it is challenging, but it keeps me on my toes, and that's, I think, so one of the challenges for me is actually a blessing, because I know I consider myself as to be your partner. My responsibility is to keep myself aligned as much as I can,
Healthy.
and healthy, so that when things like the criticism, the anxiety, the unsolicited advice, the need for efficiency, the frustration, the needing to do things,
Needing validation, needing affirmation.
When those things start to get a little heightened for you, I consider it part of my job to be like, hey, honey, when's the last time you've been to a meeting? And so I want to help him like that, but he does that for me too, because being with you has really helped me understand my own process with relationships, with acceptance in general, because I think for me, acceptance used to mean that I need to keep the peace. So I would go internally and I would stuff all my feelings down, and I wouldn't really speak how I felt or speak my mind. I would just keep the peace with everybody that I was around. And so what I learned through being with you really was that it's safe for me to express myself, express my feelings. we're not going to get in a huge tiff all the time about it. But even if we are, what's exciting for me now is that we're not perfect human beings. And we have moments where our 12-year-olds come out. And my 12-year-old can come out and talk to you in those moments now. Whereas before, I would go internal and I would run away, and I wouldn't be able to stay in that with you and work through the whole, whatever the issue is at that moment. So for me, I understand that I have to kind of sit in whatever my feelings are. Sometimes I don't always have the words to describe what that is, and now I'm able to say, hey, honey, I don't know yet. I need a few more minutes, and then come back and actually have a conversation about it. And even with hard times, I feel like that's my process. I need to sit in the pain, the struggle, whatever it is, and kind of marinate in it for a while, and no judgment, no opinion about what I'm feeling, but just feel it before I can move through and get into action around, okay, now what am I going to do around it?
But you did something with this that was important for me, because for me, I'm a quick processor, and I want to, get back on track right away. I don't sit well in uncertainty and those kinds of things typically, and so my drive to want her to let's work through this. I learned that JoLae as a human being, she has this process, and one of the greatest gifts for us is that we have tremendous amount of respect for one another, and that respect has been the catalyst to, okay, well, I need to understand about JoLae's process, and she's learned about my process. She knows that stuffing and being quiet or going and becoming introverted around a difficulty makes me insecure, and I become worse with it. So she's learned to communicate with me, and you'll tell me.
Well, and you provide a safe place for me to communicate with you around.
But even if you're not
issues.
ready to communicate in that moment, you've gotten in the habit to tell me this is maybe it's not even about me, but she'll say this has nothing to do with you. I just need some space to get there. And with that communication, or if it is something that I've done, she'll tell me that she'll give me a basis of what it was, but then she's not ready to talk about it, and I'm able to give you the space to do it. Sometimes even like 2 days, which is brutal. But I know that she's working through it. It's not like she's just sweeping it under the rug and we're never going to deal with it. And that's been amazing. It's also taught me to look at all relationships that way, and meet people where they are, and actually have some mindfulness and awareness of how I might be showing up in a situation. Whereas before I had none of that. It was like me.
Checking in with them before you.
Checking in with them, yeah. So that's been an amazing thing, and also the kindness factor too. Kindness is not one of my attributes that just comes organically.
Which I never would have guessed by meeting you.
Well, I was courting
to
you.
me.
When we court, we're totally
Wait,
on our best
you're a
behavior.
different person though.
I'm still working on integrity. Again, these are all practices. We are practicing life.
Yeah.
And so, it's a big part of it. And then the marriage thing, commitment of that level didn't scare me per se. And I think that I never thought that I could love you more. I could love JoLae more than I already did. Like, I know at any one time we have a certain, human beings have a certain capacity to do things, and to love is one of those things. And yes, Melvin. And after we got married, it took it to another level, which was remarkable to me. And it also proved my theory wrong, that we get somewhere, and that's it. That's as far as we get. Human beings are resilient and remarkable, and to me it's very exciting. So no matter what comes our way, as long as I can have some space and respond to it as opposed to react to it, I can quickly find the silver lining in it, find the solution in it, and
Ted Lasso it.
Ted Lasso, yeah.
It's Lasso.
Is it Lasso?
Yeah.
Okay. We were watching a series on, anyway. But we reflect those things back to each other all the time. And one of the things we did before we got married is we were both big advocates of therapy. And so we interviewed 5 therapists, and we finally we agreed on one, and we've been actively in therapy the whole time. But we started it 3 months before we got married, just to set a really good baseline. So these are all tools that I've learned in treatment
That help keep us aligned and keep us in acceptance, I feel.
Yeah, and a huge part of acceptance is that and my sponsor taught me this, that we're in the efforts business and the results are up to God. And can I do another song? Another song? And this is a song. This is a song. I'm actually gonna have the lyrics in front of me because I usually mess them up. But this is a song that I wrote for a movie that it's a love song, and it really represents how I feel about JoLae. But years ago at a Sierra Tucson event, Tim had called me and said, "Hey, you're gonna do that." He called me like 6 a.m. the day of the presentation, and he says, "You're gonna." He's laughing. Yeah. He's like, "You're gonna do everything, right?" And I'm like, "It wasn't on my set list to do it." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay." And he told me the reason why it was important to him was because that song is about his relationship with God, with his higher power. I didn't write it that way, nor did I ever consider it that way. But when Tim said that, it clicked like that. And I know one thing that daily JoLae and I have to fortify our relationship with the higher power, because together and also individually. Because one thing I've learned is when that relationship is on firm ground through daily practice, no matter what happens in life, it's proven that I've been able to endure and actually grow from it. Whereas before, I used to just go get loaded. So, and that didn't do anything for anybody. So this is a song called Everything. Let's see. I'll wait forever if it takes forever, as long as I'm with you. 'Cause you're all I need. You're my everything. Melvin, stop pushing my leg. You're my everything. In the time spent together, in my mind, just like heaven, 2 souls come together. By the end of day, we'll be forever. 'Cause you're all I need. You're my everything. 'Cause you're all I want. You're my everything. You're my everything. You're my everything. You're my everything. Life is but faith, and with love we know that the sins of our fathers have been paid. And I know who you are, and I know when you hurt, and I know that you cry, and I know 'cause you're my everything, everything, everything. You're my everything. You're my everything. You're my everything. Yay! All right. So obviously, music has been a real healing thing for me, and hopefully for others too. So one of the things that happened, speaking of getting into acceptance and powerlessness, is last year my little sister passed away, and she was seeking an amazing human being, very very positive. She got on this kick where she was seeking a spiritual connection, and even in spite of my experience with drugs and my experience with how I've walked the spiritual path, she found herself looking at different modalities, and she talked about ayahuasca over the years, and at one point I was even considering ayahuasca, and I reached out to a doctor friend of mine, Dr. Sunny Whedon, and I had a very in-depth conversation with her about it, and she told me that you can go do one of those fast tracks, but you might get too much information too fast, and you're not gonna you can actually hurt yourself with it. And if you stay on the path that you're on, which is my recovery path, that I will get those gifts and those epiphanies and those things when I'm ready for them along the journey, and that's proven to be true for me. For Tara, she didn't. She decided to go to a so-called shaman that actually wasn't a shaman, but she did a drug called DMT, and what would you be your opinion on what happened to her from that?
It definitely triggered something in her brain that would be considered, probably either a psychotic break or it triggered a mental disorder of some kind. It was very, she was very manic, very downloading information. She just never kind of came back to like a balance, I think.
She wasn't taking care of herself. She wasn't drinking water. She wasn't
stopped
sleeping.
sleeping.
Yeah.
She stopped. Just even with the way that she communicated, it was very.
She wasn't teachable anymore. She had all the answers. She knew everything. This experience opened something for her. Grandiose thinking. Yeah, she was controlling the weather. She was controlling all kinds of things. And we tried to get her in treatment. And she was 42 years old, and we just didn't have any leverage with her on how to do it. And I went and got her some. These spirits were telling her she needed to be on these specific vitamins, and she had a thyroid issue, and she had gotten off her thyroid medication at about the 3-month mark, because they told her that, they meaning these spirit beings that were guiding her, they told her that she was healed. So she got off the thyroid medication, and it almost killed her at the 3-month mark. Well, then her opinion of that was, well, they didn't tell me about that. I need to be eating leafy greens too, and it's a food thing. And anyway, she 3 months later she died. She was sleep deprived. She was dehydrated, and she was doing what we can tell she was doing. She was burning sage in her bed, and I'm guessing she fell asleep. She'd been up for several days, and they lit the bed on fire, and she died. And we found out the next morning. It was a huge tragedy for our family, and she was an amazing human being that affected everybody in a positive way. And hard for you because your relationship.
I'm naturally an only child by my parents, and
naturally.
Well, I make up words sometimes. It's okay. But when I married you, I really felt like I gained a sister, and I think you have these expectations and things we're going to do as a family, and growing old, as a family together. And it was really, really hard to accept that. And I think like I knew how dire it was that we get her help, but we didn't know how to help her. And it was, I felt so much sadness around it even before she actually ended up passing
We
away.
started grieving her
Yeah.
unknowingly, really, after she took the drug because she fundamentally
Something
changed.
had shifted,
Yep.
and it wasn't the same. But I don't know. I think it's important now that a part of our process is to try to educate a little bit about what these drugs can do. I know they do a lot of positive things for a lot of people too, and a lot of them are being used for therapy and different types of things. But it's very important to do mental background checks on, and psychological checks on people and what's in family history and stuff like that before
Which there was none
exploring
of.
any of that.
Yeah, there was none of that for Tara.
Yeah.
But either way, she's gone, and it's been we have a hole. Our family has a big hole in our heart, and one of the great things is that the modality of therapy that because JoLae and I were doing it, we actually. My dad is in therapy. Tara left behind a 16-year-old daughter, and so my niece Kaylin is now 17. Really heavy stuff. But right away, she was not open to therapy. I don't know 17-year-olds that are really, but she resisted at first. But we made it about come and support us, and now she wants her appointment every week because she loves therapy, and so that's been really good for the family and for my dad. Without that support system, and that's another thing about people in recovery, we know that we can't do it ourselves. We accept the fact that we're powerless and we need outside help, and all of us are not strangers to that. And normies who are not free of all the defects of character, they don't realize that they're very they can be self-sufficient. They think they are, and they don't need it. And so so proud of my dad and Kaylin and my dad's wife that they got into therapy. So we are healing as a family. And it reshaped, for me, how I look at life, it increased my gratitude, it broadened my gratitude. And Tara was always big about being in the moment and
love. You can heal the world with love. That was her model for life,
Yeah.
Best hugs ever too.
Best hugs ever. Well, so speaking of that, JoLae wrote a song. You want to talk about it?
Are we doing that first?
We can.
You were going to do Old Friend, I thought. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Anyways, yeah, so I'm kind of a closeted musician, I guess you could say. I don't get shy really with dance as a performer, but definitely with music it feels more vulnerable, and I've been made fun of for my voice my whole entire life, so it's kind of one of those things that I'm still working through actively. But I wrote a song about 2 months after Tara died. I was driving to work, and within 15 minutes I had 2 verses and a chorus, and I sent it to Michael, and he was like, we got to finish this, we got to do it. And it's really about my process being a member of our family with this whole thing. And as we were going through this grieving, there was a lot of people around us who meant well and were so loving and supportive, but they just kept saying, time heals everything, just give it time, just give it time. And I found myself getting kind of worked up and angry about it, because for me and everybody in our family, time was never going to heal this. Like, this is something that we will feel every single day when we wake up, because it's a hole in our family. And it's just, again, like, my process with this was to sit in the pain of how heavy it was, and then kind of slowly, figure out how to put it into action. So this song is about taking pain, basically, in my experience, and then what you do with that pain.
And instead of time healing, it's what we do.
What you do with the
time that heals.
I was gonna leave a little.
Oh, sorry.
Dun, dun, dun.
Sorry. I just can't help it. I just suck all the air out of the room. Is this the right key?
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Okay.
You're the guitar player. Don't you know this?
Well, I'm not. I didn't want to start it in the wrong key, and you'd be like, all right.
It's been 2 months and 18 days, 7 hours from the day we lost you. do with the time that heals you and gets you through. It's what you do that heals you. Every day your daddy calls, I feel the pain behind his walls of laughter. Your baby's rushing home from school, crying eyes, feeling like a fool. It just hit her. I know you miss her. Your brother finds his solace in a song. I guess we all just try to keep moving on. 'Cause they say that time heals all, but that's not true. It's what you do with the time that heals you and gets you through. It's what you do. They say that time heals all, but that's not true. It's what you do with the time that heals you and gets you through. Every time I think of you, wonder what you would do. Love, choose love. 30-second hugs and all. You could break through any wall with love, just love. And they may never even know your name. The underlying spirit is the same. 'Cause they say that time heals all, but that's not true. It's what you do that heals you.
Beautiful.
Still makes me sad.
And I watched JoLae write that, and and whether, we're not all musicians, and it's the writing process. It's pen to paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a part. I mean, how much of that
Well,
was cathartic for you? Not even
It
thinking
was-
about performing.
Yeah,
it, or-
no, it was, I mean, that was solely just kind of, it just hit me. It just came over me. And I think that's why I connect with books and stuff a lot too, is that there's something healing in the written word, whether you're reading it, whether you're writing it, and just sitting down and writing pages and not thinking, not judging what you put down on the paper, but just, it's a form of therapy and mindfulness too,
Yeah.
to work on things like that.
And I'm sure a lot of us do that, and if you don't, it's something to maybe consider trying, because you don't have to be some prolific, profound writer. It's just about getting those thoughts and feelings down on paper. And if you're a musician, or if you can know 3 chords on a guitar, go ahead and sing what you wrote down, because it works. And I was very moved by that. It was very healing for the entire family. And thank you for that gift. Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you for helping me.
Of course, baby. Yeah. So that was a powerless thing, that whole experience with my sister. But we converted it as a family. It's actually brought us. Our family needed therapy long before the passing of my sister. And what this did is it actually brought the family together. And that's why I'm so proud of. My dad should be very proud of himself, and we're very proud of him that him and Laura
Everybody.
and Kaylin got into therapy with it, and they are healing. It's definitely a process. Did we? Did we drop Tom? I mean, Tim?
Yeah, yes, you did.
Oh, hold on a second.
You got audio, no screen. There you go.
There we go.
Did you do that?
He kicked us off.
We were
It's
powerless
time,
over.
you're done.
We're powerless over Tim controlling the controls. Yeah.
I had to put another quarter in the side of the computer.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, right,
Thanks for that.
right. So are we at the 45-minute mark? Is that where we are? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, doesn't Zoom do that? Actually, I think you guys.
Yeah, I think it did.
You guys have the paid Zoom, right? So we're good. Yeah. that's an example of healing grieving. I was in a fire back in 2003 at a performance that killed 100 people. When I got off stage, the fire lit from for the headlining act, and it was very traumatic. I stayed numb for it. You know, my coping mechanism back in that time period was drugs and alcohol. And when I got back to my home in Portland, Oregon, I went right into my CCR, I like to call it, the cocaine and Crown Royal. But years later, when I went to Sierra Tucson, I was introduced to EMDR, which really brought all this stuff up for me. And shortly after that, that experience, I wrote a song called Old Friend. And I wrote it, the bass player in my band did not die in that fire, but he died a couple years later. He fell from a tree. And ironically, he was sober. He was getting his life together. And I wrote this song for him. And this is also a song about the grieving process. And when I wrote this, it was healing and cathartic, like JoLae did with Time Heals. But for me, it was like an epiphany of how when we face everything, we recover. Grieving requires us to walk through that pain and meet it in a present mind and with a support system. And the other side of it, you know, so in this song, I talk about how the light shines when we face everything, and when we don't, when we run away from it or avoid it, it gets dark. I don't know if I'm gonna even do this whole song, but I just want to do a little bit of it. It's called Old Friend. Goodbye, old friend. Do I have the words out? I need the words. I'm a professional, I promise. Again, these are old songs, so it's not something that I currently do. All right. Take two. Goodbye, old friend. Hope I see you again. I know I will. Wake up again. Thoughts racing around my head, and I heard what you said. I let it all go and just fly on. I think of you then. I miss your laugh, your smile. When we run, we don't hide, the light turns on. I remember when, goodbye, old friend. Another day's gone. I'm spinning my wheels out on my own. When everything's wrong, I'll just keep on rolling on. There's no one to blame. No use in feeling that kind of pain. I follow the sun and think of your light. It takes me home. 'Cause when we run, when we hide, the light turns off. If we don't run, we don't hide up in the stars. We're gonna shine. Never ends. Goodbye, old friend. So that's the idea of Old Friend, and that we must face everything and whatever gets thrown at us, you know, have a practice. You know, JoLae and I have a practice that we do pretty much daily. We're not perfect, so we skip some stuff, but to stay centered and to be able to turn things over.
Yeah, and I think what we've learned going through this year, really, at least for me, is that I've learned to trust myself more with every challenge that we get faced with, because I know that I'm smart. I have a higher power that has my back. I have a support system that has my back, and whatever challenges come, I will be equipped with whatever I need in the moment to be okay. And that really helps relieve my anxiety about when I start to get to future forward think about what if this happens and what if this happens and there's COVID and there's this. And so if I just take a breath and think about everything we've gone through, even just in our marriage, let alone our lives, like, I know I'm going to be okay. I just have to trust myself. And so I think I've gained more confidence in that.
The pandemic was interesting because, like, so I came back to Vegas to do the show Reckless in Vegas, and it took me 5 years to get an actual residency. Caesar's Palace signed a deal with us, and we were supposed to open at the end of March, early April, and it just got shut down. And you know, all the work you were doing, the modeling, the dancing gigs, all gone. Yeah. The one piece for me that was somewhat of a saving grace is that usually how come that show got that opportunity? Why we're as good as they are? Well, I was always kind of doing that still, to some degree in my life. I was aware of it, but I was doing some of that with the pandemic. Everybody in the same boat. So my FOMO, my fear of missing out, wasn't as there wasn't a propensity to shut me down on that. But that's been a real tough time. So we both took the powerlessness and the acceptance of the situation, and went on different paths. I personally went into the studio and started writing and recording. Alana yesterday mentioned that this time period has been a very prolific time for her, and a gift as far as getting introspective in writing as a musician. And I relate to that because I started a new project. It's all original music, and I'm super excited about it. And JoLae, you're from...
Yeah, I'm going back to school for my master's, and so I kind of dove right into that. And I'm a schedule person. I feel accomplished if I can write down, I'm going to do this today and I'm going to do this today. So the first month, I think I organized every kitchen or every cabinet in our kitchen and laundry room. And that was my project for the first month.
Plus, we enjoyed like Alana said yesterday, we actually enjoyed the first month. It was like, this is
oh,
great.
this is vacation.
Yeah, Netflix and everything else. And,
But then I really sat, my school started, so I really put all my time and energy into that. I struggled a bit with finding a way to get my creative outlet out, I guess, especially because dance and movement is such my thing. And I really love to do yoga and dance classes and things like that. And that was not an option. And they have it online and stuff, but the class, the human connection experience with that wasn't happening. And that was really, it was difficult for me to adjust, but
it was the catalyst to actually move you into a lifelong love of therapy.
Yeah.
Your master's, you're going with
Marriage
your program?
and Family Therapy is my program.
I think she's doing the master's in marriage and family therapy to deal with the Shapiro family. That's what I think. But so it's been we've converted the whole experience into growth.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing. I mean, there's some things, gratitude daily. We're constantly checking in about gratitude. Like I said earlier, I have to be careful not to let my ambition drive at the expense of what is going well for me. And otherwise, I'm always out there. Always want that. Therapy's been a big modality for us still through this. One of the things we do, aside from prayer and meditation, that we do together is we read together. We have 11 different daily spiritual readings that we read together. And reading, if you're in a partnership, reading's a very intimate situation, and we always have conversation after we do it. We try to do it in the morning before we start our day with coffee, and we love coffee.
Well, and all these things, all these self-care things are kind of a mindfulness practice in itself, because just like when you're trying to meditate and be still, if we're not perfect. We have days and months where did we get kicked off again? Yeah, we got kicked off again.
Did that. Are we back?
Are we out of time? Is that what I did?
There you go.
There we go. But we have days and weeks and sometimes months where we don't do a lot of these things. But I think part of the mindfulness is bringing it back, bringing the focus back in our relationship. Exercise. The other thing we do is we started a garden a year ago. Is that right?
Yeah, we have a garden. We grow fresh vegetables.
And we have chickens.
Fresh eggs.
So every day we're out there taking care of them, tending a little bit at least to the garden. And it's just a great, we became vegetarian almost a year ago now. And combining the health side of food with our bodies and self-care, and that we're getting the food straight from the ground, the energy source outside in our backyard, and from chickens that we feed organically has really I think also helped and inspired us to keep the whole thing going.
Also noticing how foods affect our body. I'm a sugar junkie, and so I have to really watch that. And
you're at 2 a.m. sugar junkie.
At 2 a.m. Throw me under the bus. But being mindful about when I eat something, how does it feel? And also when I have a craving, I play the tape. How am I going to feel after I get the pleasure of eating that food? That's been very helpful. But going plant-based has really opened up for us. It's not for everybody, but for us, it's been really, really positive. And then I want to just quickly, in closing, just share this tool that was given to me. It's a meter. And it's a meter that I keep finely tuned by going to meetings and praying and meditation and reading all the things we've talked about. And the meter I can tune into anytime I want. And the meter started with recovery. Is this decision towards relapse or towards recovery? It never sits in neutrality. And this is a meter that I shared with a lot of people, and I really follow in my recovery process. Years ago, it occurred to me, I can use that meter for anything. So in recovery, if I decide not to go in today's situation, climate, do I decide to go to that Zoom meeting? If I decide not to, the meter goes towards relapse. Not that I'm going to relapse in that moment, but I look at that. If I don't make my bed that day, the meter's towards relapse. So little things like that. So when it comes to, my exercise practice, which way is my meter, right?
Yeah.
If I decide not to go for a bike ride, which way is my meter? If it's a financial thing, if I'm overspending money or I'm trying to budget or what I'm trying to do, whatever goal it is, I can put that meter. So I have a whole wall of meters going on, and I just have to keep them finely tuned. But that meter is something that everybody can use and pay attention to it. And it's a mindful meter, really, being mindful. So,
Okay. Should we do question?
yeah.
And then I can do chat.
Hi, Tom, I keep calling Tim Tom. Tom's a producer, Tim, by the way, is a producer I'm working with every single day.
I have to see the
I've
J-
known
Long
you
as
for
we
15 years. I've known you, so it's okay if I screw your name up.
Oh, I can't move it. Okay.
So the question, how do you keep in the forefront to be healthy? Teresa, it's a total, I do remember that God experience, by the way. It really got to my head. I left there thinking I was God. It's a challenge. It's a daily practice and challenge. For me, my biggest thing is support group. The people that I spend time with and hang around, if they're not on a healthy mindfulness, then it's harder for me to maintain that. But when I hang around people that really are on that path, it's inspiring and easy to stay on that track. JoLae, I just got lucky. She's very, very healthy on that. She stays in shape. That motivates me to stay in shape. And I struggle with it still. Trust me, constantly. It is really hard for me because I'm lazy. So
When you want to be, you're lazy. When you want to be motivated, you're motivated.
Yeah, when
so
I turn
think
it
it's
on,
just a matter of what do you want.
selective
What do you
laziness. Yeah.
You both exude gifts of recovery, having healthy boundaries, working on your own program. Thank you for sharing the realities of marriage, even when there is great love. Also, many opportunities for inner growth. Any ideas for how to encourage my spouse to learn about the 12-step recovery, especially codependency issues, without controlling?
Without controlling, I'm out. We talked about this over the weekend. We were talking about this. So why don't you share? You're talking about by osmosis, right? And just
Yeah. So there is. I'm learning about some of this stuff, and a change. Many MFT systemic theorists believe that a change in one part of the family can help increase a change in the rest of the family. So if you're working on yourself and maybe sharing ideas just that you think are exciting and fun, not necessarily as a you should be like this type of perspective, but just more that this is something you found interesting. I also think that our reading books, we have a codependency one, and it's something that we both have to motivate each other sometimes to do, because sometimes I'm super busy and I don't feel like I have time to read, and he's like, hey honey, can you want to read? And I'm like, I'll never say no. So if you talk about how important it is for you personally, like I would really like to try reading with you and kind of explore that a little bit, because it really does open up a world of intimacy, I feel like, for us, because we share about what that brought up for us or how we feel about whatever the daily reading was. And they're very short, and you can just start with one. And
well, and also like if she reads a concept and she comes to tell me about the concept, and I could just selectively nod, yeah, honey, I heard you, yeah, or whatever, it hit me. But then the next day we read it, I'm like, oh my God, this concept's amazing. So when I read it for myself, it sometimes has a stronger effect than if my dad shares something with me or my partner shares something with me. So invite. Just to try to invite to share one reading together in the morning, or before you go to bed or something, and the words are coming from a book. That's been very helpful for me. But I know that the direct approach just doesn't seem to work, and it causes more frustration and dysfunction. So.
everyone has to realize it for themselves on their own time. So all we can do is plant seeds, really.
Yeah, and also the greatest gift, if I'm healing myself and I'm getting shiny and I'm not putting any pressure on JoLae to something, JoLae naturally is going to be like, hey, what are you doing different? She's gonna the dynamic is she's asking me about it now. It's not me pushing something onto JoLae.
Exactly. What is your show, and how can we follow you?
Melissa, Reckless in Vegas. You can go to recklessinvegas.com. The brand new project that I'm playing with the son of Neil Schon, who's a guitar player from Journey. It's Miles Schon. We've written all these new songs. It's all original. It's called Many Miles Away, so manymilesaway.com. And then Michael Shapiro Music, you can always look at that too. But the Reckless in Vegas is the show that will, at some point, be back on in Las Vegas.
Matter of time. Thank you for the meter. Make me laugh so hard. Outstanding advice. Okay, so let's go to chat. Oh, it's down. Okay.
Hi, Chrissy.
Hi, Chrissy.
Thank you, Alana.
Alana, thank you. Marsha, thank you.
Tim, does this go away after we end? So we have to look at.
Yeah, that's a good point. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
So it does go away. So read these now because we won't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
I'm so grateful. You know, we attended Sierra Tucson 3 years ago. Is that right? Was it 3 already?
Has it been 3, Tim? It's been 3, I think. We got married on one of them, and then last year we were traveling. I think we just got back. Yeah, we were traveling. So we've missed the last 2. So 3 years ago was the first one that JoLae got to go to.
And it was one of the best, most amazing experiences, and getting to meet all of you guys and just being around like-minded people who want to who want to grow and be better and love each other. It's just it's the best feeling.
It's so authentic and so real. It's just amazing.
We're looking forward to going back.
Earlier in the year when the pandemic started, we actually talked about that. We were disappointed because we were planning on going to Westward Look and doing it in Arizona. And the fact that Timmy, you guys all pulled this off. What a gift. Thank you. I mean, we miss the hugs for sure. There's a lot of hugs at these events. But as far as being able to connect and be part of the presentations has been really great.
Your songs are on iTunes, right?
Yeah, Melissa's songs are on, there's music on iTunes for Reckless in Vegas and Michael Shapiro.
And my song's on YouTube, if anyone wants to.
Yep, Time Heals is on YouTube. It's just JoLae Dawn Brandt.
It's under your YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah. Or yeah, you could look at my Michael Shapiro YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank
you all so much.
3:34.
Yeah, we're over.
Yeah, so we're over.
Sorry.
I'm gonna.
Oh gosh. Thank you guys.
Thank you for
So
attending, you
sweet.
guys,
Thank you
and
for
being here
attending.
with us. Tim, thank you for the opportunity. And this whole
Thanks,
weekend has
Tim.
really elevated us, and we're going to practice everything we've learned this weekend.
Yes.
Where's your notes? She's got notes. You have no idea. She takes notes on everything.
I love this stuff. I eat it up. Okay. All
It's
right.
awesome. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate you guys taking the time out and letting us in your home, and it's wonderful. And it's to hear a couple just completely vulnerable, and because it comes out in the share and it comes out in the music, and so really appreciate you. So thank you so much.
Grateful for you. Thank you.
We are. Thank you.